What's up, guys? So I'm starting a new series called Photoshop Basics, where I'll be showing you how to create better brand content using simple techniques in Photoshop. In this first episode, we're going to be creating one social media post design. So let's dive in. Before we dive in and start creating, we want to know what this design is for. And on my screen here, I already made this a couple days ago, and I decided to make a tutorial out of it. So we're going to do it again. So we know this is for social media, and we know it's for stories. I know the stories is 1080 by 1920. 1080 by 1920. Always make sure it's in pixels and not inches or centimeters. Just keep it at 300. RGB, this is for web, so RGB is for web. If you wanted it for print, like say this, so you want a magazine cover, or you want it to be on a billboard or whatever, you would go CMYK. Sometimes you'll accidentally be in CMYK or RGB, and the colors will look way different. So make sure you're not in CMYK when you're working for web. And then everything else you don't really need to know or click. Go ahead and click create. And now we have our canvas here. So I'm not one to like preach hotkeys because I like to know where things are at in the menus and stuff, but over time they are really useful. So for Photoshop, if you want to zoom in, you just hold Alt, the left Alt and scroll wheel. And then you can click spacebar, click and hold the spacebar, click and hold. You can move this around. So the first thing I do when I have the canvas open is I go to view rulers, or you do Control R, and it brings up the side and left ruler. If you click and hold on the rulers and let go, now you have a grid line. And so what I like to do is make sure I have the grid points all around all the edges. So you click down, bring another one down, so you can like click and hold, drag it down. You don't have to let go, you can just drag it straight down, and it should snap. It should snap to the canvas. And if it doesn't, you can go to view and snap and make sure the snap is checked. And then also you go to the left side rulers and click and drag and let it snap to the edges. So now you have basically margins. But those are the main ones I use, and then I also do center. So it should snap like that to the center, and then from the left to the middle here. Boom. Then make sure, yeah, it snapped. So now we have our center of the image and everything gridded out. And if you don't like that, you can just turn it off or get rid of the rulers. But it helps with like lining up everything. All right, so the next step before we dive in is you should get a reference image. In this case, I already created this, and I didn't use a reference image, but I've been doing this for a long time. So a lot of the times I don't need a reference image, but if you're like new or just starting out, it's really important to have one up on your screen, or just to go back and forth and try to not copy, but like design what they designed, but in your own way. I created a folder. I'm going to put all the assets in, and you guys can download the file and create alongside me if you want to design this exact same thing, so you have like practice. Because that's how I like to learn, is I like to do the exact same thing somebody's doing, and then as I'm going along with it, I learn all these little tricks. And then when I go to do it myself, I'll remember. So you guys can download that in the link below. So when you drag an image onto Photoshop, you can hold Alt and drag these corners or edges, and that'll scale it in all directions. You don't want to, you can do it from one side to the other, but it still scales it good. But if you hold Shift, that's how you get the stretching that you don't want. And then Control Z is undo. So we're going to hold Alt, drag where we want them, probably like right here. Okay, that looks good. And I'm not going to get into too many of these tools. This is more of like I would say intermediate. I'll do a intro one to Photoshop for some people if they don't understand any of this stuff. But if you know Photoshop, this should be pretty easy to do. All right, so let's go ahead and drag this guy in here. Okay, and the first thing I want to do is cut this guy out. We want to remove this sky. So to do that, all I'm going to do is just click this selection tool and then click select subject and let Photoshop do its magic, and it should be pretty good. And what I always do is I hit select and mask, and if you don't see this red, you can come up here to the right and make sure you're on overlay so that you can see what it's selecting. I always have it smooth slightly, and then everything else 0, 0, 0, and then make sure you have output. So if you don't see output, you got to click this drop down, hit layer mask, and that'll give you a mask to use, which will mask the sky out, and then hit OK, and then boom. So now he's there, and now we have this mask here. And this is a quick tip. So if you were to cut this guy out, and you see how it has all this white stuff on the edges, you can click, make sure the mask is highlighted, not the photo. So make sure the mask is highlighted, and then go to filter, other, minimum, and then make sure it's on roundness and 1, around 1, maybe even less for this one, because this image is actually tiny. But you will see on other stuff that you do, if you do 1, it works pretty good. So we'll go like 0.7 and see what it does. It gets rid of that extra like fake white edge. So hit OK, and then we'll just delete this rectangle, and that just like makes it more pure. He's going to be small anyways, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So we'll put him, I'll line him up with how I had him in the thing. So we'll put him there. I originally wanted him to be like behind the mask, or behind the helmet, but it just didn't work out. Like, it doesn't look good to the eye. So let's go ahead and add some path blur to these guys. So we'll do this guy first. So I always duplicate things when I add blurs and stuff, just so I can always revert to the original. So we're going to go ahead. There's 2 ways you can duplicate him. Actually 3, but we'll do 2. You can hold Alt and drag up or down. So if I drag up, it creates one. I'll do Control Z to show you the other one. You can just drag this guy to the plus sign. That gives you another one. Or you can do right click, duplicate layer. You can do it that way too. I always just do Alt drag, drop. So now that we have 2, we're gonna have to make this one. We're gonna have to rasterize it or convert to smart object. We're just gonna convert this one to a smart object, and that gets rid of the mask, and now it's just a PNG. So we'll turn off the other layer because we don't need it right now. And we're just gonna make this one the blur. So go to filter, blur gallery, and then we're gonna go to path blur. And this effect is really cool. So you gotta find where, cause sometimes it'll place these random. So we're gonna make it like this because we want some motion to this, like that. And then once you have, I'm gonna kind of match the way he's bent. So then you come over here on the right, and we're going to change the speed of it, taper, the endpoint will stretch it even more. It's all just like messing around with the settings to just get what is going on in your head. Or you can just play around till it looks cool. That's how you learn a lot in Photoshop. So that looks cool to me. We're gonna hit OK. And then now we're gonna turn back on the original guy, and you can kind of see what's happening here, but now we have to either move the blur over. So just click and drag like that, because we don't want it to be in front of the bike. We want it to be like behind. Okay, that looks fine. Now what we're gonna do is make sure you're selected on the blur, and then we're gonna create a mask. So that's this button down here. Make sure you have that selected, click mask, and now we have a mask. And to get rid of certain things on the mask, make sure you click the paintbrush, and then black erases, but you have to be on the mask. So black erases, white paints back. And then make sure if you click up here that you're always adjusting your size and hardness. So for this one, I would probably want my hardness down, like all the way, but the size kind of up. And we'll go, and we're going to paint away. Oh, make sure you're on black. So if we're on black on the paintbrush, on the mask, you go ahead and paint away on top. And just change your size. Like even for the size change, I still don't know the hotkeys for that. I should, but I don't. So I'm just gonna paint around to see what looks cool. Now it doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna be adding a bunch more to this. And then the next part, we're gonna do the same thing to this guy, but we're gonna do it slightly different. So let's go ahead and Alt drag up. Now we got our new one. And then now we're just going to go to Filter, Blur Gallery, Path Blur. Do the same thing. Whoops. Make sure you grab this. There we go. And you can click these and kind of go up and down if you want with them. All right, that looks pretty good. And then now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna leave this. Yeah, we'll leave this on top. And then what we're gonna do is make a mask. And then we're gonna use the gradient tool instead of the brush. So click gradient, and then we're gonna go. You can do it however you want. You can click and drag this way, click and drag this way, and you can kind of see what is happening. But make sure it's black and white. But we're gonna actually use so I just Control Z to undo. We're gonna use this one, so it's a mask on either side, or a gradient on either side, and you'll see what this does. So it's gonna basically like opening a window with the mask. So we're gonna make it pretty small. Go like this. And that's alright to click and undo, or set it and then Command Z if it doesn't look right, or you can just adjust that actually. So that looks cool. But now we're gonna grab the brush and make sure the hardness is way down, the size is pretty big, and now we're gonna add some more like this. Yeah, that looks cool. Yeah, okay. So, and since this is I don't even know how to say elite. Let's drag the logo out real quick. And you always want to leave room for Instagram or whatever, because up top, like the story stuff will get in the way. So leave a decent amount of room. If you want, you could download like a template where it will give you the specific sizing, but you can just guess if you want. You want to kind of research a brand too, to figure out the vibe or style they would want. So this actually looks pretty good as is. A lot of the times you can the simpler the better. So this is super clean and just looks insane. So make sure you're highlighted on this guy. We're going to go to image adjustments, hue and saturation, and we're going to get rid of the color on this dude because he doesn't really need to be in focus really at all. Now we kind of have a good base. Let's go ahead and add the text now. I just had motocross there. So let's go ahead and do motocross. And the whole point of like designing stuff is messing around with typography. So um, once you have a cool design, you work around that for the type, and you can just create whatever you want. But for me, I just put it over here because it looks pretty cool, and we're gonna keep the same theme of like the path blur. So I'm not gonna use this font for this. I don't remember what I used for that, but I'm pretty sure it's like right here. So okay, yeah, I used fast up, and I could probably put all these in the folder for you guys too. And it's okay, you can go outside the borders. Everything doesn't have to be inside of it, but we're gonna keep it white. Bam. Okay, we're gonna put this on top, and then what we're gonna do, so to get that cool effect of the guy in front of the motocross, we're going to add another mask on the text. So we could copy and paste, actually. So there's two ways to do this. You can copy this guy and paste him again up front. Here, let me delete that. What you could do is just hold Alt and drag him above it. So there you go. That would work. But I'll show you the other way if like that's not possible, because there is sometimes where you have to do this. You just take the brush tool, make sure you're on the mask on the text, and then make sure the hardness is pretty high, not all the way. And then what we're gonna do is just paint this guy. You're basically drawing him in. This is a little bit more tedious and a little bit more work, but it's always good to learn. You could pen tool them, you can do all sorts of things. But for this one, we're just going to paint just to show you guys. And that's why I have my brush at 30, maybe 40, just to keep it smooth when I'm doing this stuff. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as it looks legit. Because we're going to be adding a bunch of extra effects later. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to add the blur effect to the text too. So hold Alt, drag one up, and we're going to right click on this and create or convert to smart object. And then now go up to filter, blur gallery, path blur, and then just do the same. Just drag it up, same angle. We can drag these red things out. If you don't have the red things, just make sure edit blur shapes or endpoint is checked. Pretty far out, kind of. You can mess with the angles too. I kind of want it to be like that, a little bit offset from the normal. Maybe not. We'll just keep it going that way. Okay. All right, so that's how you get that cool effect. And so if you double click on a layer in this open gray space, it's extra effects, the layer styles, where you can bevel, you can add a stroke, we can make it black, which we're not going to, inner stroke, not going to. You can add all these cool extra things, but what we're going to do is just add a drop shadow for this one. And you don't want to ever make your drop shadows like that. Like that's just way too much. You want to make sure they're like really like slightly there. And you can use your angles to change it. And make sure, because whatever you use, when you use global light, all your drop shadows will be the same angle. So I have that off. We might not use a drop shadow here. Maybe we will. So spread is like, that's what it does if you drag it up. That's how you have to like experiment by dragging stuff to the extremes and back down, because otherwise it'll be hard to tell. Depends on what I want to go for. I might just go like a, yeah. So I'm not really going to do a drop shadow. It's just going to be like a slight gray, white. I didn't do it on this one, but it looks pretty cool on this one. So, all right. Now what I'm going to do is if you hold shift and click both motocross things, we're just going to group these. New group. And then I'm going to add a mask to the group. And then use the gradient tool and drag up slightly. Well, make sure you're on the first one. This is the one we used earlier. We're going to use this one. I'm just going to drag up. Let's just go down here like this. We'll go like that. So it's slightly fading out. All right. Now this is sick how it is. But what I like to do before I finish something is I go through like and finalize with effects and overlays. So sometimes you can go overboard, but you'll find they're called like happy accidents. So like I'll just be messing around and I'll find something sick. Sometimes if it's too much, I'll just delete it, but it's worth checking out to see if you can find something cool. So now we're just going to drag in overlays just to see what they look like. And overlays allow you to get different blending modes, and you'll see. So this one is on top of everything. If you see where it says normal, this is the blending mode area. And if you just hover over these, you can see what it's doing. And a lot of the times when you have a black, a more black image with white like stuff in it, like this one's a good example, or this one. So this one's like all black with sparkles or particles. If you use lighten screen, color dodge, linear dodge, and lighten color, it gets rid of the black. But you can see what the other ones do. If you want to try using it, go for it. So we'll go back to this one. We're going to make this one probably screen or lighten. We're going to do lighten. Let's go ahead and add the sparkles. Same thing. We're going to do lighten. And we're not going to have it as like embers. We're going to go to image adjustments, hue and saturation, and we're just going to desaturate that one so it's gray. And that one looks fine. All right, next. So I know I want to add the products in here. I mean, we don't have to. This is pretty much done. But we're going to do it anyways. So we're going to add one. I already cut these out for you guys, so they'll just be PNGs. Two. So what we're going to do is show the back and the front side angle, or front angled. I have a front, but it's too flat. We're not going to do that. We're going to have like a little bit of depth in there. So we're going to make sure these look pretty good next to each other so you can see all the front and part of the back. And click both of them. Control T. So now they're both together and you can scale them. Okay, so we're going to scale it down. In reality, you'd want the product to be like the center point. This is just a good rule of thumb, center or slightly down. But for this one, just because like how cool the background looks, we're going to have it down lower. So after we position the product where we want it, we'll leave it there. We'll leave some room at the bottom for like links and shop nows and www.whateverbrand.com. Let's go ahead and add a new layer, which is this plus sign. And we're going to come over here and add a shape. And what I always like to do is make a square, a black square, make a mask on that black square, and then use your gradient tool and drag down like this. Okay. And now when you add text and stuff, it's more readable at the bottom. And we're going to just make sure this layer is selected and then bring down the opacity a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and add the dirt explosion to keep it more like on brand with motocross dirt flying up and stuff. Let's drag it up. And to make it like more 3D, let's go ahead and put the dirt explosion between the two PNGs like that. And then we could probably drag it down more so that it doesn't go too much into the other product. All right. And I noticed on their website, these ones for guys were white. So what we're gonna do, the back was the same. So the white part was red besides the chest. So it's just this part that we need to change. This is what we'll do. We'll do a new, it's like a layer image adjustment. So you click this little circle, go to hue and saturation. And before you touch this, because this will edit everything below it. So for this to only edit this, you hold Alt, and you see if you go in the middle, it has a drop down arrow. You click while you're holding Alt, and now whatever you do to that will affect this. So watch. So if I do reds, bring them down, that'll change it to gray. And if we scroll down to lightness, we're going to go to the right, and that'll make it white. And then we click the mask and paint. Make sure your size is up. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're just going to paint everything but those buckles and make sure it's on white. So that'll bring it back. Oh, sorry. Make sure it's on black. And this one will bring it back. Just paint where it was red before, besides the buckle. And now you have the white buckles. Boom, boom. So if it wasn't alted, that's what it would do. Make everything white. So if I alt click, puts it only on here. All right, now for the final touches of this thing. So what we're gonna do, we might have to add a couple of them. So I'll do the same thing. I'll add an adjustment to all the layers, which is that little circle down at the bottom here. You do selective color, and then make sure you're not on the mask itself. We're on the selective color layer. I always go to neutrals and blacks. So neutrals, I'll go slightly to the right, get some cyan in there. Neutrals, I'll go, or not neutrals, magenta, I'll go I'll barely move that one. Yellows, we'll go plus like 2. And then blacks, we're gonna make this more darker like that. And then now we're gonna go to blacks, do the same thing. So I'm gonna turn that off, and we're gonna change the dirt explosion to kind of match, and these to match the background already, so that it just like is more cohesive. So let's go ahead and do image. We're only going to change that one for this one. So image adjustments, hue and saturation. We'll just do, let's see what the yellow. Yeah, we'll bring the yellow out a little bit, make it slightly darker, and then image adjustments, selective color. That is the neutrals and blacks and neutrals. Over. There we go. Okay, so that one matches a little bit more to the background. So now we're gonna match each PNG a little bit more. So these two we're only gonna do selective color, image adjustments, selective color, midtones, and we don't really have to do much. Just over a little bit on cyan and brighten it up a little bit so they can see the product a little bit. Same thing for the front one, image adjustments, selective color. I don't see, okay, I do see it. Oh, I'm on red, that's why. Make sure you're on neutrals. Over slightly. And you can drag them, like I said, far just to see what it's doing. Okay. And then I'm going to copy this gradient again and put it underneath. Oh, damn. Kind of want to put it there. No. Okay. Just kidding. To make the product pop a little bit more, there's two ways to do it. You can double click on them and add a drop shadow and go through these settings, size, distance, to make it pop a little bit. That looks fine, but we're going to turn that off, and I could show you. You just add a layer between them, get your paintbrush out, hardness down, size up, and you can kind of just paint in your own drop shadow if you want to. And then we can just bring down the opacity a little bit so it's not as crazy. And then we can do the same thing underneath this layer. So we'll go down one, add a layer, and I will paint one slightly. Okay. And then our top selective color, we can go ahead and turn that back on. And now everything should look a little bit more cohesive, but now it's a little too much. So we're going to go back to neutrals and go pull this down a little bit. Okay. And then let's go ahead and add a curves on top of this and brighten it a little bit. We're not going to do the S curve because it's already pretty contrasty. We're going to go up and then pull the bottom up a little bit to get like that more faded look. And then I am going to duplicate the gradient down here and put it above the dirt. And then just turn this opacity down. So I just held Alt on this gradient we made earlier and just drag it above the dirt. And we're gonna pull the opacity down slightly. Okay. And now we can add the text to this. So this thing was called the chest protector. chest protector. Make sure it snaps to the middle like that. So let's go ahead and find the font that I had. It was Poppins extra bold. So when you're doing text, you want to make sure that the focus of it, so this is the 4.5 hybrid chest protector, so we're going to have that as like the bold part because it's the new, and we can put this underneath, underneath the PNG a little bit to create more depth to it. I didn't do it on that one, but this one looks cool like that. So we'll do that and then hold Alt, drag up, drag down, 4.5 hybrid. We're gonna make this bold, extra bold. We're gonna put it slightly above this one. And we're going to add a mask to the chest protector, just like that, and do the gradient, and we're gonna pull. If you hold shift and go up, it should go straight. Yeah, then you can get this cool effect. I don't know why I have two of those. You can get this cool effect where it like disappears into the smoke. The hybrid, we could probably add a little drop shadow like that, just slightly. So 26, distance 2, speed 7, size or spread 7, size 8. All right, there's one thing I forgot. On the PNGs, they have that white line. That's what will happen when you cut stuff out without doing this extra step. So this one doesn't have a mask, so it won't work. So we have to create a mask. So go to select subject and then hold, or just hit the mask button now with everything selected. And now you have a mask. And then now what we can do is go to filter, other, minimum, and that'll get rid of that little edge that you have on the sides of the product. And we can do that with the other one, even though the other one isn't as bad. So let's go to select subject, add a mask, make sure the mask is highlighted, filter, other, minimum, make sure it's on roundness, and we'll keep it at 0.7. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do for the last little effects is I'm going to duplicate that abstract dust thing that we have, this thing, and move it around so that the bottom is brighter, so it separates the product more from that guy. So let's do this here. But you can still see Leet on the side there. Okay, that looks cool. So now that since I adjusted that one, you see how it has sharp edges? We're just gonna make a mask again on this. Make your brush big, hardness 0, and then we'll just paint where we don't need with black. So yeah, right here. All right. That's it for this video of Photoshop Basics. If you learned something, hit that like button, subscribe for more design content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.